Millions of people think they're not good enough. And today, Sabrina Trobak will tell us how to go from feeling not good enough to unlocking your full potential. And what's so special about Sabrina Trobak is that she is a registered clinical counselor and the author of Not Good Enough, Understanding Your Core Belief and Anxiety. So, Sabrina, tell us more about why do people suffer from feeling not good enough? And what can they do to overcome it?
Fuel Podcast with Lily Patrascu shares longevity and anti-aging techniques to stay young forever, increase energy, overcome addiction, and live your longest, best life ever. Shared by world's most innovative, alternative, and traditional health thought leaders, healers, and doctors. Discover quantum healing strategies to heal your mind, body, and soul.
Sure. So, I think we can look at obvious things like growing up with a lot of trauma and abuse and violence definitely creates that core belief not good enough. But it can also be the subtle little things where, you're 10 and you're emptying the dishwasher and then your mom has to come in and do it the right way because you didn't stack the dishes the right way. Telling you didn't clean your room the way it needed to be cleaned, struggling a bit in reading or in math. All of these little subtle things also create that core belief not good enough that over time just develops and becomes more and more and more significant. We constantly try to prove to ourselves that what we believe about ourselves is true. So if my core belief is not good enough and someone says, "Oh, I like your outfit," that doesn't balance. So I have to find ways to reject that. "Oh, this, I got it on sale. Oh, this is nothing. Oh, I borrowed it from someone." That reinforces. So even though it starts with these things that are happening to us, as we get older, we end up doing it to ourselves, creating it in our own thought patterns.
Thank you. How do people who feel they're not good enough, how do they go from that to not only unlocking their full potential, but becoming titans in their field, like impacting millions of people, becoming presidents, achieving seemingly insurmountable things?
Well, so sometimes people whose core belief is not good enough, they do those kind of things, but it's not coming from a place of contentment, a place of pride, a place of confidence. It's coming more from desperation, needing to try to prove that I'm good enough. If I do this, then I'll be good enough. So we see a lot of successful people that really, when we talk to them, that core belief not good enough is still there. So they reach their goal and then they still feel not good enough. So they need more and they need more and they need more. So it has to come from that place of confidence, not from that place of more desperation or needing to prove that you're good enough. I was talking with a client just a few weeks ago about how, she's really independent and on her own, but it didn't come from a place of confidence. It came from a place of survival. She had to take care of herself because if she didn't, no one else did. So that core belief not good enough is there. To look at her, everyone would say, wow, she's really independent, she's strong, she's successful, she's doing all these great things. But underneath it, she's saying, no, this is what I'm doing to try to prove that I am good enough, to get that acceptance. I need to be independent. But it wasn't something that was fostered and built in me. It was something I needed as a survival tool.
Thank you. Like when I was growing up, I remember that my grandmother used to say that I was stupid, ugly, and fat. And I felt actually like I wasn't smart enough because of what she said. And I remember that as I was growing older, I remember having these conversations that were really interesting with lawyers and accountants and, really highly respected people. And yet I think that I was trying to hide the fact that I was not smart enough. And I was thinking, I hope this person doesn't realize that I'm actually not that smart. Although when I was younger, I was the first in my class. I went to university. I passed my driving license test the first time. Like there was no evidence actually to show that I wasn't smart enough because I was performing incredibly well at school. And in all areas of my life. And as I kind of moved to London from Romania, I noticed that people were saying, wow, you do excellent work. And it felt kind of like uncomfortable because I wasn't used to that. I wasn't used to like anyone saying that. And it felt untrue for a while. But with time, I started gradually accepting it. But I can't say that this feeling of like um, not being smart enough, not being pretty enough, not being worthy enough of attention. I can't say that that disappeared. It's still somewhere there. So how can someone cope with that and not let that repress their abilities? Because I think with time we become better, we grow, we become more intelligent, we learn, we become so good at different things, and yet those beliefs are still there holding us back.
I just think you said the key word, beliefs. What you said from your story wasn't that you weren't smart enough. It's that you didn't believe you were smart enough. Everything around you shows that, yeah, you were smart. You were smart in school. You're smart in university. You're smart in your work. But if you don't believe in yourself, you are smart. You're not going to see yourself as smart. So in order to make those changes, we really have to go back and figure out what our beliefs are. What do I actually believe about myself? And then we have to figure out where it comes from. So going back and looking at, your grandmother saying these kind of things, but then what else kind of built and fell on top of that made it get bigger and bigger and bigger. So you get, 10 out of 10 on all your spelling tests, except for that one spelling test that you only got 7.5. Well, 7.5 is what sticks in your head, not the 10 out of 10. So it's all those little things that we have to go back and understand. How did that core belief develop, right? Is that really based on fact? I am not smart? Or is that built on my belief that I am not smart because of all these experiences that I went through? Once we become more aware of that, then we can start to challenge those beliefs and go, wait a sec, no, that's not true. I am smart. You don't even have to justify it. I did. End of statement. You don't even need to justify it.
Thank you. So how does someone start to believe these new ideas that, let's say, I am smart enough, I am worthy, I know, unique and special, and all the other things that perhaps are empowering beliefs that could lead you to a better future?
So I think once you have that awareness and you're aware more of how often you're doing it and you start to challenge it, it's also important to go back and look where they came from. So it probably would be very empowering for you to even write a letter to your grandma, not give it to her. Doesn't need to be, I don't even know if she's still living, but you don't need to give it to her. This is about you having the voice and saying all the things that you want to say and saying to your grandma, you really hurt me when you said those things. I'm now, 20, 30, 40 years later, still having to deal with the impact of your words because they created a belief in myself. You had no right to do that. What does that say about your grandma? Let's say you really were not very smart. Does that mean your grandma has a right to tell you that? No. She should be supporting you and helping you learn how to read and write and challenge your thinking so that you are developing those skills. To just say you're not smart, you're ugly, there's no benefit of that. That says something significant about your grandma. Your grandma's words say more about her than they really do about you. Writing that letter, having that voice, getting it out can be really beneficial. But then you got to do something with the letter. You can't just write it. You've got to read it out loud. Read it out loud and let yourself feel. If there's emotion that comes up, stop and just let yourself feel the emotion that you are feeling. Do that a couple times. When that emotion starts to subside, then do it again looking in the mirror where you're looking at yourself reading this letter. Stop when there's emotion. Let yourself feel the emotion. Do that several times. You will feel a huge sense of relief coming from that. You're giving yourself a voice. You're standing up for yourself. You're standing up for who you believe you want to be. That's how you start to change and challenge that core belief to being more good enough, important, and valued.
Thank you. What about if there's no trace, no visible trace of, let's say, still believing, I'm not loved, I'm not enough, I'm not worthy, all these different things. But for example, every time I organize an event, what happens is that I self-sabotage. I still get sore throat and cough and migraine, and sometimes I don't sleep the day before, so I self-sabotage that way as well. And I think that it's almost like my entire body is trying to sabotage me being visible. And that kind of reminds me of the time when my grandma used to beat me, and she was like putting, stinging nettles on my bum, and then she would threaten to like punch me into a wall. And she would say that, if you cry, then I will beat you more. So there's this fear that I had that was related to like expressing myself. So it's almost like I was being repressed from expressing myself. So it kind of reminds me of that as well. So what would someone do when they have this kind of like a trauma that kind of keeps replaying in their head that mirrors into a different activity that they do when they're trying to overcome it, when they're trying to express themselves?
Everything we do for a reason. So the better we understand why we're doing what we're doing, the more we're going to be able to challenge ourselves out of it. So there's probably a couple things happening here. In telling that story you said, when I'm giving events, I it's almost like I don't want to be seen, like I'm sabotaging myself. How much with your grandma were you trying really hard to not be seen? To just be the good child, blend into the woodwork, avoid the abuse, the emotional abuse, the physical abuse that went on. So now you have to step out in this big event where you're hosting, you're organizing. That's a total 180. So your body actually goes into a physical response to going from spending your whole life avoiding being seen as a coping strategy to now you're right in the middle of it. Your body is going to go through a physical response of stress for dealing with that. But the other piece is our brains are patterns of behavior. We do the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again. So if, 3, 5, 7 years ago, you started getting a sore throat and a headache when you presented or organized an event, then the next time you organize an event, your brain goes, oh yeah, we have to have a sore throat and a headache. And then the next one. And so you end up creating these same patterns of behavior over and over and over again because your brain thinks, oh, but that's what we need to do to cope with this situation. So part of what you want to do before the next event is start challenging yourselves. I don't need to have a headache. I'm more than capable of handling this. I have done however many different events. I don't need to hide anymore. I can be present with who I am. I'm going to do things differently for this event. I'm going to go a little bit slower. I'm going to make sure I'm drinking lots of water to keep myself hydrated. I'm going to take breaks where I can rest my body. My body tells me it needs more care when I'm in these events because it's going against what I've always believed. So I'm going to challenge myself on it. And if you do that consciously over the next 3, 5, maybe 7 events, you will see that there's a big shift in how you are handling them because you're consciously making an effort to change your thinking around the event. If you go into it thinking, oh, I'm going to get a headache, I'm going to have a migraine, I'm going to be dehydrated, I'm going to get sick, guess what'll happen, right? So you want to change that thinking.
Thank you. So I also have an abandonment wound from my father, leaving my mother when I was 3, and he never kind of came back. I'm wondering, how would someone who has an abandonment wound start to feel good enough and worthy enough of attention, worthy enough in a sense of not attracting only emotionally unavailable partners or emotionally unavailable business partners, or let's say business partners that have no time for you and that kind of thing?
Right. So again, it's recognizing and realizing, oh, I did it again. I'm connected with a partner who is emotionally disconnected. That is because you are also emotionally disconnected, right? What do you get out of being with someone, whether it's a partner in work or a romantic partner who's emotionally disconnected? You don't have to emotionally connect. So it's of benefit for you as well. If your dad abandoned you when you were 3, that's going to have an impact. He's supposed to protect you. He's supposed to keep you safe. He left you in an environment where you were abused. If you can't trust in your dad, why would you trust anyone else? And so you end up putting these walls as a way to protect yourself because someone who is supposed to keep you safe didn't. Why would you trust anyone else? But the other part of that trauma that happens is when it's someone in our family, your dad, your grandma, your mom, you end up kind of, well, maybe this time it'll be different. Maybe this time it'll be different. And you give them that little bit of trust again, and then you get hurt again. Then you give them that trust and you get hurt again. So what ends up happening is you end up not trusting in yourself. You don't know who you can trust and who you can't trust. So you end up not trusting anyone. Part of trusting is believing in yourself that you can handle it. Chances are, if you trust in someone, they're going to hurt you. We're human. It's what happens. Hopefully it's not severe, not significant, but the chances that you're going to get hurt is really high. But being okay with that and trusting in yourself that you can handle being hurt, you will be okay. It's not a reflection of your worth and your value. It's about that person and their struggles. Then you can start to trust more. You've got to be able to trust in others in order for you to have those more healthier relationships. And the other piece is the emotions. When you go through, you've just told me a little snippet of your life, but the chances that you were taught push your emotions down, pretend they're not there, is really, really, really high. Well, whenever you have a relationship, you have to feel emotions. And so if you don't want to feel your emotions, your relationships are going to be very fractured, because as soon as there's any emotion, you need to disconnect from them. So choosing relationships with people that are emotionally disconnected makes sense. You don't have to be as vulnerable. You don't have to feel as many emotions.
Thank you. So how can I stop abandoning myself, and how can I stop abandoning other people as a coping mechanism?
I think one of the most important things is we have to get better at being able to feel our emotions and understand what we are actually feeling. So many times, if we think we might possibly maybe feel emotion, we shut off and don't do it. So we need to get better at being able to feel those emotions. What I suggest is get an emotions list. There's an emotions list in my book. There's also an emotions list on my website. But if you Google emotions list, you're going to get thousands of different ones. Print them off. I tell my clients, print them off and put them around your house. Put one on your fridge, one in your living room, one in your bathroom, one on your bedroom table. Put one on your phone. And then when something's going on, pull up that list and read through the emotions. The emotions that you are feeling, they will stand out. It's very rare that we feel one emotion. We usually feel 3, 5, 7, 15 different emotions all at the same time. Well, that makes feeling emotions even more scary because it's not one, it's a whole bunch. But when you can just read and acknowledge them on a page of what you are feeling, it's not quite as scary. Takes maybe 5 or 10 seconds. Just start there. Once you're getting more comfortable with that, then read those emotions and allow yourself to just sit quietly and sit still and think about those emotions. Thoughts create emotions. So if I think about how I felt powerless and vulnerable and unheard, I'm going to allow myself to feel that. Just short periods of time, 30 seconds, maybe even 10 seconds to start off with. Then you go, oh, I handled that. Okay, I'm okay to feel that again. And then next time you can feel it again. Slow little steps. If you try to feel a whole bunch of emotion all at once, it's just too overwhelming. We just go, whoa, never doing that again. And we kind of shut the door on that.
Thank you. Why is it so important to feel like small bits of pain like that? Is it because we kind of get used to, oh, actually it wasn't so bad. I handled that. Therefore, I can handle more?
For sure. So when we do it small bits at a time, generally the last thing we do is the thing we remember. So if we have a really great day, but right at the end of the day, something horrible comes up, it was a horrible day. But if I have a really horrible day, but something great happens at the end, we often go back and go, it was a good day. So we just want to end on something what makes us feel like, I can handle that. I can do it again. If I try to sit in emotion for an hour, it's too much. It's too overwhelming. I'm not going to go back to it. If I do it for 10, 15, 30 seconds, at the end of it, I think, well, that wasn't that bad. It wasn't fun. I didn't really like it, but I handled it. It was okay. I'm going to be more open to try it again. But you are never going to feel emotions that aren't already there. So we carry these emotions. We carry them for years and years and years. Your dad abandoning you, your grandma abusing you, feeling unloved, unheard, powerless, vulnerable, emotions that you have felt for years throughout your life. And when something happens now, good chance that those emotions that you've been carrying for years are going to be the ones that you're feeling now. But over time, they just get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger because we're holding them in. The better we get at letting them out, then when something happens today, it just has to be about today. It doesn't have to carry the emotional impact of the last, however many decades that you've been holding that emotion in.
Thank you. Tell us where entrepreneurs can connect with you.
Sure. So my website is trobakholistic.org. On my website is the links to my social media. It has a blog page which has a bunch of information there as well. I also have a page on there that is my podcast interviews that I've done, and also has my contact with my email and cell phone and all that kind of information as well. So the best kind of catch-all place is trobakholistic.org.
Thank you.
Follow me for more interviews with world's most innovative health change makers to live your healthiest life ever.